trying hard to capture me. And in my mind, thinking, then the skin is falling off of me, and my body's dying, getting hard to breathe. Lord, take me down to the riverside. Lay me down, Lord, and let me breathe. Take me down to the riverside. Oh my God, let me breathe. See, I feel the wind against my back, Lord, it's haunting me. I feel the wind against my back, it's forcing me. It says, girl, sing your soul, sing your soul, sing your soul, sing your soul. Even when it hurts to breathe, oh, I know it hurts to breathe. I will provide. Hey, baby girl, always, always, always come to me. Take me down to the riverside. Lay me down, Lord. Oh, let me breathe. Take me down to the riverside. Lay me down there. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Lord, let me breathe. Oh my God, let me breathe. Take me down to the riverside. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Down to the riverside. You can sing along, Lord. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Oh, let me breathe. Yes. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Lord, let me breathe. Yes, yes. Nice. That's great.
Spirit's always moving. We make ourselves honor and praise to the one that created us, called by many names. Sometimes called Amun-Ra, sometimes called Ptah, sometimes called Allah, sometimes called Jehovah, sometimes called Olodumare, sometimes called Yahweh, sometimes called Nomo, sometimes called Ngai, sometimes called simply I am that I am. The one who created us, the one when my brother was singing and preaching, talking about the one who, when you have a problem, no matter what that problem is, has some guidance and some wisdom. We just have to listen. We have to open ourselves up to Spirit all the time, not just in those moments when it's easy. So we give thanks to that Spirit, first and last, unique and without partner, the one who is able to do all things well. We give honor and praise and we venerate our ancestors, the ones who came before us. We pour libation in this community as a habit. We are bringing that practice along with other people out into the broader community because our community needs healing. Our community needs culturally sound practice. We don't have to make anything up. We can add to it, we can innovate, but our culture is so rich that it's almost, I heard somebody use this term the other day, it's an embarrassment of riches. You got so much that you embarrass. You know, it's like card players, when you play in 4 or 5 hands of bid whist and you getting the jokers and the aces and you getting the whole rundown. Sorry for those who don't play bid whist. You'll talk to me after service. But it's like when you win in every hand. You just, you know, it's like how brothers sometimes we talk to each other, we see each other in the street, how you doing, man? You got the best hand. Most High and ancestors, working through the ancestors, keeps giving us advice and counsel and inspiration and ideas about how to live. We just have to listen, pay attention, study, seek understanding, reflect. And many of the things that we learn in our lives, often we don't implement. We'll learn it. And we think we know it, but see, until you use something, you don't know it. Until you use something, you really so we have to be a teaching community. Everywhere we go, we got to drop some knowledge on somebody. Why? Because especially for our young people need it and want it. So this morning we continue to venerate, honor our ancestors. We also honor and praise our elders, the ones who are older than us. Everybody has somebody who's their elder. Somebody who is in a position through experience and knowledge to give them advice and counsel. And this morning in this community, we honor our elders and ask respectfully for permission to continue from our elders who are in the room. And the elders say it's all right. Please give all of our elders a round of applause. I want to just spend a few moments in dialogue and reminding us of some things we already know. Because most of us come here knowing some things. We've studied and we've been involved in things. And I think sometimes just those who are of like mind and spirit, we just have to encourage each other. We just have to be around each other just to push us forward just a little bit. You know, sometimes you need a little spiritual kick in the pants. You know, where somebody around you say, come on now. You know, come on now. You know what you need to do. You acting like you don't know. You know. Ashe. So this morning, I want to just spend a few moments, this afternoon, talking about freedom. Freedom. Seeking and seek spiritual freedom. Be free. Be free. I want to use a text, two different texts this morning. One that if we were in Christian terms, we would maybe call the Old Testament. It's the Hosea. The old writing. Page 93. Because all those words, the words aren't magical. You know, testament, testify, testimony. You know, the things that we write in books. The word Bible itself just simply means book, right? And this afternoon we have the benefit of both this sort of Old Testament from a man named Jed Konsef Ankh, and we have the New Testament, the New Testimony from Howard Thurman, one of our latter-day mystics. Ashe. Because black folks, we got mystics all over our history. Mystics being those people that are connecting to spirit directly. They don't look for a Messiah. They don't look for someone else. They look for teachers. They look for prophets. They look for people who can speak the word of truth in community, but they're not waiting for somebody else to save them. Howard Thurman was such a person. You know, we need to study and understand Thurman as an American African mystic. Because so many people out here now, it's so funny, you know how people, the cultural appropriators, will take your stuff and sell it back to you. Serious. Like right now, if you get on a website and look for djembe, like you look for djembe players, the first 4 or 5 things that pop up is white guys in Marin. Seriously, not Muhammad, not Moshe, not Baba Zach, not Mama D. Keita, although Mama D. Keita show about 5 or 6 down there, but it's like some white guy over in Marin, right? And then sell it back to you. Look, and I'm serious, you look on for like djembe lessons, how to put your hands on the drum. You see, it's a bunch of white folks. And no problem with white folks learning music, but they certainly should not be teaching it and selling it back to us, right? So there's something about how and the same with yoga. If you go out and look for a yoga class, there's a lot of white women teaching yoga. And you have to search for somebody from the East to teach yoga where it originated. Right? Same is true of our stuff. In a minute, to be African gonna be so popular with the rest of the world. Everybody gonna be saying they African, because all humanity from Africa. That's gonna be the argument, right? And you're not gonna recognize your culture, right? So it's not from a separatist point of view, but it is from a nationalist perspective. It's from a Pan-Africanist perspective that we want to look at our tradition, our history. So in the Hosea, this idea of freedom. We want to look at this passage. It's from a man who was called a prophet of Amun-Ra. And if we can read these words together, page 93, passage number 2. Hail to you who will come after me, who shall live in times to come. I shall make you call me blessed, for my destiny was great. Ra, as Khnum, the great potter, fashioned me into one most able, an advisor of excellent counsel. He made my character superior to others, and guided my tongue to that which was excellent. I kept my mouth free from attacking those who attacked me. My patience turned my foes into friends, and my enemies into allies. I controlled my mouth and was skilled in response, yet I did not submit to evil doing. People judged me as one generous, for I hated the hoarding of riches. I caused them all to greet me for my excellence, paying homage to my inner essence, and saying of me, he is a righteous offspring of his father, and a divine descendant of his mother. No one spoke evil of my parents because of me. My parents were honored greatly because of my worthiness. Indeed, they found me helpful while they lived upon the earth, and I provided offerings for them now that they have departed. Moreover, I did not allow my servants to address me as our master, but instead made myself in the image of their father. Your ancestors was bad, y'all. They wrote that a long time ago. Be free. This brother, this text jumps out as one who was free. And there's a lot of freedom stories in our culture. Started most recently, one of the most popular freedom narratives is the narrative of Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was trying to help people be physically free, and in that process, be spiritually free. And we want to look at this idea of what is spiritual freedom, what does it take to be spiritually free, and then what do you do with it when you have it?
All right.
What does it take to be spiritually free? What is it? What does it take to be free? And then what do you do with it when you have it? Because it's not enough to get something of value and then not do something with it. Ashe? Just like this brother, Jed Consafunk, he says, I hated the hoarding of riches. Which seems to suggest then if he was wealthy, and he probably was, if he was able to write this and have it prepared on the time of his death for us to read this centuries, generations later, he probably had excess that he used to feed the hungry, that he used to clothe the naked, that he used to give housing to people who didn't have housing. Having riches is okay. So financial freedom is okay. But the question is, what do you do with it?
All right. That's right.
What are you going to use it for? Right? So he says, in this passage, he says, and I love how our ancestors were so prescient, so prophetic. He wrote these words, and he gives us today, in 2013, a greeting. It starts, he says, hail to you who come after me. He's talking to you. He had you in mind. He wasn't writing this for himself. He said, hail to you who will come after me, who shall live in times to come. It's a great foundation for listening, right? You're going like, oh, he's talking to me. He said, I shall make you, and I love this. It's like he's confident. I shall make you call me blessed. And it wasn't a question. He said, well, if you want to, you can call. No, he said, I shall make you see how bad I am spiritually. Right? I'm going to make you call me blessed. Because why? My destiny was great. God made me one who was an able person, a talented person, a person who had competence in their skills, who had excellence. So when we invite people to come, and for instance today, come and play music and sing, we're not inviting folks who can't sing. We're just not. It's all good, and everybody can, my dad was a choir director. You've heard me maybe say this before. My father directed choirs in churches and schools. And my dad used to say, everybody can sing. But some people should not sing as loud as others. That's what we always used to say. Because he had a big choir, and there be some folks up there struggling to carry a tune. And you need a bucket to carry a tune with them, right? You know, they couldn't, but something about everybody can do it. But this brother says, I'm excellent. And then why does he say he's excellent? Because right after, he didn't say I'm excellent because I had the baddest chariot. He didn't say I'm excellent because I had the baddest linen clothes, that I had the nicest incense. He said, I'm excellent because God made my character superior to others. So that's a high standard. He said his character. And if they would say Iwa Pele, in Kemet they would say Ma Keru, the one true of voice. You've proven your character on Judgment Day. That's the spiritual freedom that we're moving toward. He says that he made my character superior, and I like this next part, guided my tongue to that which was excellent. In other words, he only talked about things that were excellent. So that rules out a whole bunch of other stuff. That rules out gossip, backbiting, he said, she said. That rules out a lot of haterism. Right? Ashe, okay? I'll put it like that, right? You can't be a hater and have your tongue speaking to that which was excellent. You see how she looked today, what he was wearing, look at that dirty car he got. No, he was looking at what was excellent to say. Can you imagine being around somebody who only talked about excellent things? Talked about the good in everyone. Talked about the good in every situation. Tried to figure out, even in a situation that seems to be antithetical to freedom, so there still must be something good in this. Be free. He says, I kept my mouth free from attacking those who attack me. He was that chill. Like, you could come at him and he was like, that's cool, but I ain't got to say that. I'm going to let my words, my actions, rather, speak for me. He said, my patience, and patience is powerful. He says, my patience turned my foes into friends. How many of us had that kind of patience? At best, we just leave people alone if we don't like them. At best. At best. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on out here in Oakland where it's like if you coming at me even on a minor offense, now we gotta fight, now I gotta shoot you, now I gotta do something crazy, right? But this person is an example of someone who was self-mastered. He says, I kept my mouth free from attacking those who attack me. My patience turned foes into friends and enemies into allies. I control my mouth. He was free to control himself. He said, I control my mouth and was skilled in response, yet I did not submit to evil doing. That's an interesting one. So he's saying, I spoke truth. To be my ally, my enemy, doesn't mean I'm going to now get down with you on some evil doing. Right. He was saying, no, you can still do you, but I'm going to be me. He said, people judge me as one who is generous because he hated the hoarding of riches. Caused the great to greet him in his excellence. And then he says, this is a critical piece, paying homage to my inner essence. Come on now. Like, that's bad right there. Like, you ain't paying homage to how I look, what I wear, where I go, to my spirit. Why is this? Why is this person having this kind of his ability to even speak these words in this story? Because there were probably other stories that he heard. So we heard the story of Harriet Tubman. We've heard the story of Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, and Nat and Bessie. We've heard the story of that kind of freedom, getting out of the political and social and economic chains of plantation system slavery. That's one kind of freedom. But even Harriet Tubman, if you read her story closely, you know that not only did she get physically free, but the first thing she said when she came across the Mason-Dixon line, when she got her own freedom, she said, I looked at the sky and the sun and everything felt different. Everything felt bright. She had a spiritual transformation by freeing herself from chattel slavery. A spiritual freedom that then compelled her to save other people. She could have stopped with herself, but she didn't. We probably wouldn't tell her story as zealously if she had stopped with herself. But we like the fact that Harriet Tubman freed up herself physically, mentally, and spiritually, and then tried to do that with other people, and did it successfully. Never lost a passenger. Never had somebody turn back. How many of us can say that about our lives? That we have actually worked with somebody, brought everybody along. Brought everybody along. No matter what their idiosyncrasies were. Because you know, Harry had some hard moments.
Well,
You know black people. You've been black. Everybody has been black, some form of black your whole life. You've been African, African American, you've been Senegalese, Guinea, wherever you're from, you've been black. And you know, this is the kitchen conversation. Black people, we got stuck. Why? Because we human beings. But somebody that Harry is working with wasn't trying to be free. They thought it was a good idea when they first left. Like on that Saturday night. Yeah, and they was getting a little head start before them dogs started coming and the horses and they thought, you know, it sounded good. You know how it is, you work with folks, sometimes you start on the committee, it sounds good. Then after a while, it don't sound so good. Because it now done get, you know, my folks in Pine Bluff say, done got hard. Right? It got hard. But Harriet stuck in there. She hung in there with folks. Just like Jed Concept. He must have hung in there with folks. But see, he was working off of another narrative. An even older story of freedom. A story that's familiar to us. A story that we've heard many times. It's a story of a man and a woman who really have one foot in the divine in terms of creation and one foot on earth. They're really the prototypes of human beings. Because we are in fact divine. It's just like we just forgot. That's all. We divine, but we forgot. Our whole life, we're trying to remember. And we're using stories, we're using the meta nature, we're using classes, we're using ritual. We're just trying to do all these things to make us remember how divine we are. What it means to be, because if you're divine, you by definition, you're free. Your spirit can go and be and do anything. You're limited by this body, these bodily fetters. You know, we frame this in a lot of different ways. But the story that Jake Constable knew and heard probably from a child was a story of these two people that went out and civilized, brought progress, brought transformation to their community. They went out and through the power of their word, the power of their speaking, their singing, their poetry, their music, convinced people to live a better life. One day when her husband, and you know the story I'm talking about, one day when the brother was at a party and his friends were jealous of him, 42 of them decided, along with the leader, decided that we're gonna hurt you, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna make it so that you can't be this person, be this leader anymore. And they sized him up, built a sarcophagus that fit his body perfectly, and through the party, it's the origins probably of the Cinderella story. Does the shoe fit? They said, well, whoever can lay in this sarcophagus, in this coffin, we'll give it to them, and so on the day of their burial, they have this beautiful vessel to be buried in. And when all the people tried it, eventually a man named Asar, sometimes called improperly Osiris, being called out of his name. His name is Asar. Asar laid in that sarcophagus and they shut it down and floated it out into the Nile. And the story has a lot of twists and turns in it, but at one point in the story, when the body has been found, recovered by Aset, his wife, his sister, his friend, his ally, she tried to take it and hid it until she could reanimate that body. But before she could do that, Set, the prototype of Satan, the prototype of Elegba, the prototype of chaos, confusion. Because see, that's the thing in our narrative, every time you see somebody playing that role, it's a necessary role. Why do we think that somehow we're going to live through life and ain't never going to be no evil-doing person around us throwing obstacles in the way? Always going to be that. Every narrative about freedom is like that. Harriet Tubman had it. Jake Concept Ankh had it. And in this story, the Son and Set had it. And so Set took the body, cut it up into many pieces, they say 13 pieces, and scattered it all over the country. And because of her diligence, because of her authority, her name means authority, the seat of authority, I said, diligently, persistently, with spiritual audacity, went out and put the pieces back together. Animated that body to produce a child. Now this is our narrative, our myth. Don't make the mistake that others make and take a spiritual text and make it literal. It's symbolic. It's symbolic. And the reason it's symbolic is so we can use it at any time and place. If it was literal, we would limit ourselves to that's what happened back then. That's what happened back in the civil rights movement, so I can't do that. That's what happened during abolition, so I can't do that. That's what happened during the old ancient days in Kemet, so I can't do that. But see, this symbolic, you can borrow from it from at all times and places. That's our legacy as Africans. This is an African story. Don't get confused. Kemet is in Africa. It's Africa. We got to figure out how we're going to be free to be Africans. Ashe? We got a lot of traditions that inform that Africanity, but that's the moment we're in is to be African. To be free to do that. But so this story, she puts it back together. So what does that tell us about freedom? That if you're going that the definition of this freedom is that it has to be audacious. Freedom is not something that's scared. Freedom is not something that's limited by circumstance. You have to move with spiritual abandon. Move in ways that aren't planned and choreographed. Sometimes to be free means you just got to move, right? You got to let your energy, guided by Ma'at, guided by truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, reciprocity, guided by that, but then you can be free within that to do any good thing. And I'm distinguishing political freedom, which is what many of our social movements have been about, or social freedom or economic freedom from spiritual freedom, because see, spiritual freedom is more likely the foundation for all those other kinds of freedom.
Come on now.
You can't be economically free unless you're spiritually free. You can't be politically free, because if you're not spiritually free, you're going to be a politician. You're going to be a hack. You're going to make deals. You're going to cut deals. You're not going to do what is right. You got to have spiritual freedom to call things by their name. You got to call racism, racism. You got to call the attack on black children an attack on black children, not at-risk kids having problems in low-income, distressed neighborhoods. Call racism what it is. Call all those phobias what they are. Call all that hate what it is. It's hate. Spiritual freedom is defined differently than political or economic or social freedom. I've been moving around this month, and many of you know, I've been a little bit of everywhere. And everywhere I go, it's been generally the same conversation about the circumstances facing black people in this country. I've been to Chicago, Baltimore, LA, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and New York, all in the last 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm sleeping. And the blessing of it is I do get to hear from folks. I get to hear from my brothers and sisters in Chicago where they had 30 shootings in 1 weekend. I get to hear from folks in Southeast Washington, D.C. that talk about the gentrification that's happening there, just like where I live in West Oakland. I get to see what is happening in Harlem where they say, well, the crime is down, the shootings are down, but yeah, the police doing stop and frisk. It's some Gestapo, Nazi kind of stuff. There's something about this when we look at it, and everywhere I go, it's the same solutions come up. That we got to have more healing work in our community. And that takes many forms. We got to have a lot more positive music, a lot more positive messages. We got to have community healing circles and spaces where we can heal. We got to have the supports that build family. We have to have cultural schools, like Ilion Day, but also Saturday schools. In Chicago, they got 25 Saturday schools for black children, where they can learn about their culture while they learn about math and science. We've been talking about it. We've been saying it all over the country for a long time. We've done some of it. When I first came to Rose, we had a Saturday school. Ajamu and Paula Stewart, who actually Paula was on a plane when I came back last night. She and her mother were coming back from a celebration in Virginia, where her aunt had been celebrated. Her aunt was very similar to Mondale Sherritt, who was a person who just passed away here, was a political leader. They just named a street after her aunt in Newport News, Virginia. But that idea of cultural schools is out there. The idea and practice of intergenerational networks, where elders are talking to youngers who are talking to even youngers about life, about how things work. That level of excellence is everywhere. And so the question is, why is it that, or what would it take? If we say that freedom is divine spiritually, what does it take to be free? Often being free we confuse being free. Sometimes we think being free means to be, and this is the Thurman piece, where we are not at the moment. So in other words, we want to be someplace else. And we say, okay, that would make me free. Right? Sometimes we want to be relieved of a particular set of chores or responsibilities. And that would make us free. I sure would be glad when I don't have X. And then you can fill in X with anything. Right? Sometimes we think that being free is being in this surrounded by, this is Thurman's word, a careless rapture with no reminders of the cost of any kind. To be on the open road with nothing overhead but the blue sky. Sometimes we think being free means movement, change, reordering. And what he suggests is that to be free may not mean any of these things. It may not involve a single change in a single circumstance, or it may not extend beyond one's own gate, beyond the four walls in the midst of which all of one's working hours and endless nights are spent. He says it may mean no stopping of the old familiar routine. Quite possibly, your days could be, you could be in a rut, increasing the monotony. What he says, though, is that to be free means the ability to deal with the realities of one's situation so as not to be overcome by them. I'm going to say it again. To be free means the ability to deal with the realities of one's situation so as not to be overcome by them. He's telling us to be free has something to do with how you perceive the situation, how you perceive the circumstance. We have met people in prison who were free.
Yes.
Because they decided that those four walls have nothing to do with their spirits being able to be free. He says it's the manifestation. It is the manifestation of a quality of being. He didn't say anything about doing. He says manifestation of a quality of being and living that results not only from understanding one's situation, but also from wisdom in dealing with it. And then he admonishes us. He said it takes no strength to give up.
Well.
It doesn't take any strength to give up.
Say it again.
He said it takes no strength to give up. It takes no strength to accept the shackles of circumstance so that they become shackles of the soul. To shrug the shoulders in bland acquiescence. He said that's easy. But do not congratulate yourself that you have solved anything. In simple language, you have sold out.
Well.
Surrendered, given up. It takes strength to affirm the high prerogative of your spirit. It takes strength to affirm the high prerogative of your soul. And you will find that if you do, and this is his words, and I'll substitute Netcher's principles, divine powers. He says a host of invisible angels will wing to your defense. And the glory of the living God will envelop your surroundings because in you, God has come into God's own. That's Thurman. Thurman. He says, what does it take to be free? It's the perception. It's the sense of how you deal with those circumstances. Then what you do with it, that's what every generation has to decide in its own time and place. We have a challenge in our generation. We cannot rely on what our ancestors did and call it work in this time. We got to figure out what we're supposed to do. We got to figure out how we going to save kids. How we going to make sure kids get an education. How we going to be free. We got to decide how we're going to bring economic prosperity into our community that is sustainable in the 21st century. We got to figure out how we going to be free.